capsradio.co.za, or it's at Caps Radio SA on all our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The WhatsApp line for your voice notes, comments, and questions is 081-278-5685. Right, so this brings us to the next question. We're in South Africa. SMEs are supposed to be the backbone of the growing economy. And look, let's be honest. Like Jack said, we all know that we're buying bigger brands than the small brands. So I'm going to come and say, look, I'm just a small business. How can I, make sure that my brand is seen? I don't want to compete with Coke, but let's not use Coke. Let's just any business.
I think we need to actually give this SME an idea of what's happening. So in terms of building a communications strategy, what would a company need? From the word go, to say, these are the people that I want to talk to, this is what I want to say to them, and this is how I want them to buy into my services.
Yes.
So from party side, the question is, okay, I'm a small business. I want to sell branding equipment. How do I go out there? Where do I start? What type of professions do I need to assist me in producing that product of communication so that people can buy into me?
Okay. So if you're selling branding equipment, as it were, firstly you must identify who uses the branding equipment. And once you've then identified who makes use of branding equipment, you are then able to establish how you're supposed to communicate to these people, as we were talking earlier on. Now, once you've then established this, and unfortunately, it's very unfortunate that SMMEs in their very nature don't have money. And the challenge more often than not with marketing and branding is that it costs a lot of money.
Yes.
Now, the bigger headache is that it is very, very difficult. It's measurable, but it costs a lot of money even to measure. So if you are selling jackets, for instance, and you have got 5 billboards that are costing you 15,000 rands a month each in different areas of Johannesburg, for instance, when I walk through your door, you don't know how I got to hear about you in order to buy that jacket. So you don't necessarily know, of the 5 boards that you have, 2 are necessarily useless. So you're spending 15,000 rands a month on each board, which becomes 45,000 rands a month. However, the boards that are actually driving feet to you are 3. These 2 useless. But in order for you to get true and honest results, a lot of people will depend on surveys to say, where did you hear about us? I know from personal experiences, I usually take those surveys and I usually just tick the first box because I'm not here to read, I want my jacket, So those surveys are not necessarily always accurate. So you've then got to be careful that marketing, in as much as it's so critical, a lot of people don't do it because it's very, very difficult to measure. So you could very well be buying radio ads, buying TV ads, printing pamphlets, printing this. All of this costs you a fortune and a half, and then you don't know that the clients that are actually walking through your door, where exactly do they come from? Do they hear about you on the radio? So you can might as well just shut down the, and which is why, and I'll go again back to the Coke example, which is why you'll find these big companies, they're pretty much on every single platform that you can imagine because that's where people are. So because it costs so much money and it's so difficult to measure, that's why a lot of people don't do it. Going back to Jack's point, to say if you're selling equipment,
absolutely,
you've then got to identify who's buying this equipment. How expensive is this equipment? Because the people that might want to buy the equipment might not necessarily afford it. Now, because equipment is pricey, as you might know, you don't necessarily want to waste your time or money marketing something to a market that wants this thing but can't afford it. So once you've made sure that the market can actually afford it, you then go, and this is now where you go and consult with guys who've actually done a marketing course to say, how do I best and most effectively communicate to this particular market? And they will then be able to tell you, this particular market, you don't necessarily go and speak to this particular radio FM. These people are the type of people who will listen to, and I'll use an example, 702. These are the types of people who will be on, other mediums who you want to. So if you are speaking to those people on a Facebook platform for yuppies and hippies, you're completely missing the mark. Although that is still costing you money. So you've got to be very, very careful as to where you find the people that you're looking for, so that they can be able to buy that which you're selling.
Okay, so from what you're saying, I've identified research, right?
Critical.
I've identified marketing.
Critical.
I've identified sales, right?
Critical.
So let's say those are the basic elements to creating a marketing or communications team. But then how different is that from someone who sells on the street?
Now, You see, and this is fun.
It's a great question.
Yeah, again, it goes back to perception. You know, that somebody who's selling on the street, we will know them as the informal market, we'll know them as hawkers, we'll know them as... Now, unfortunately, people who do sell on the street, often enough, people don't even want to be associated with having bought anything on the street because you yourself, the purchaser, are perceived to be cheap. You know, that's just the same. So as opposed to buying a banana from Mam Togo sitting on the side of the road, you'd rather walk into a large established supermarket to buy the same banana, possibly for a little bit more money, because you want to be perceived as buying from those brands. You want to be perceived as buying, and I don't think you're wrong in doing so, because those brands have done what they could to lure you to their door. Umam Togo sat, and truth be told, she doesn't have the money to go and market. She doesn't have the means. But the reality is, for as long as she doesn't have it, she's probably going to suffer the consequences of not having it, up until such time that we conscientize our society to say we must at any and every cost support each other. If you look at other races, if I may go there, they will support each other regardless. If you look at our Indian communities, they will support each other regardless. If you look at our Jewish community, they will support each other regardless.
Can I ask you something, and I don't mean to cut you there. Are we saying, I'm picking up that branding, with its all the benefits and all that, it can drive perception.
True.
And when it drives perception, people can become totally oblivious to anything else that exists in that market. And that is a good and bad thing. That's the power of advertising, that you can totally change the perception of people, where the same fresh banana that I can get on the side of the road, just because I know that fruits and veg sells the same, because of branding and perception, and also the whole thing of I need to look superior even if I'm eating a banana. Is that the power of branding?
That is the power of branding. The reality is there is nothing, and you know, Jack and I were talking about this earlier. There is nothing. There is absolutely nothing that you can look at that is not branded.
Maybe the question also has to be with saying, what does it take to actually create a good marketing or communication strategy? What elements do you require to make it work?
Yeah.
Well, one, I think you need to be a very good team player, because very seldom rather, will you find any one-man band going out there and developing a strategy and implementing the strategy and all that. So you need to be part of a team.
Who are the people connected to that? What kind of people do you need to put together?
What type of careers are possible in communications?
Okay, well, plenty. All right. So in order to be able to come up with a campaign, now you see some of these things are very goal oriented. So if you're looking to drive sales through getting correct pricing, you will then say, this item, I'm selling it at this amount, come and support me because it's on special, or whatever the case might be, it costs X amount. However, there's a marketing that speaks to brand awareness. So this item comes from Zoned Enterprise, it's a zoned item, and so I'm not even going to tell you how much it is. All I'm trying to do is to zone until this thing is... So the first thing that pops into your head when you think Coke is not the price. It's Coke. You know. So the price you'll deal with that just now when you get to the fridge.
Okay.
You know. So there are two legs to this thing.
Okay.
So to answer what Jack is saying, when you want a strategy, you need a team of people, guys who conceptualize the strategy, guys who will then, for that strategy to communicate correctly, what is it that we want to communicate? Are we looking to say to people, buy this item at this price? Are we looking for people to say, when you get to the store, just walk to the aisle and look for zoned and you'll find it there? Are we looking for people to say, so you've got to decide beforehand what it is that you want to communicate to people. Once you've decided that, you then need a panel of people who are going to sit there and say, now that we know what we want to say, how are we going to say it? And then you need a panel of people to say, now that we know how we want to say what we want to say, where do you find the people that you're going to say it to? Once you know where you're going to find the people to get to, how do you get the message across to those people? And all of these things, as you can imagine, and it's a whole lot of people, and it's a whole lot, exactly. So a whole lot of SMMEs, and that is why you'll give the business to an ad agency, and these are people who have that manpower to be able to sit there in boardrooms and war rooms to sit and come up with strategies to say, we are going to sell this, and this is how we're going to package it, because we got the brief from you to say, this is who you're targeting, this is how much you want for it, or whatever the case might be, and they can then be able to give you a full-on presentation. So very seldom would you, on your own, be able to come up with a strategy from A to Z and be able to implement it, and it works. Very, very seldom.
All right, so it sounds as if one of the biggest things is to know exactly what you want before you go out there and want to put it out to the market.
You've got to research it.
What careers, like, I'm hearing people who do the strategizing, conceptualizing. What do I just go study marketing and advertising and that's it?
Well, right. So marketing and advertising are your mainstream. That is typically where you would go, and then you're able to specialize once you're in this. So you would need to know. So marketing and advertising are they're different.
Yes.
In that when you do marketing is very, very broad. So marketing will tell you. So if I say to you car, I'm sure there's a particular brand that just popped up into your head.
Of course. Yeah.
Right. Now, whatever car popped up into your head didn't pop up because since you were born you fell in love with that car. It's been entrenched very gently and over a long period of time into your brain. And that is marketing. That is the function of marketing.
Oh.
Now, advertising on the other hand works hand in glove with marketing because we want to market this item, we've then got to advertise it. So advertising is more the doing word of marketing. So you cannot market something before you advertise. You've got to tell people what it is that you're busy selling, and that once you've taken it and put it into a package, that becomes your marketing strategy.
Great stuff. We're going to take a short break. Yeah, Jack, I'm loving this, man. We're going to take a short break. This is Career Mode with Jack at Untitled. We're going to be right back just after the break. Stay tuned. Worlds, you are getting some of that content. Called Lunch and Caps Smart Radio. Shut up, Jack. So, yeah, where were we?
Well, in essence, what I'm trying to get to is to say, if I am the small business, if I am the guy on the street, what do I need as a minimum? You know, what professions can I partner with? What friendships can I make? Where can I get all this type of advice so that I can get help in promoting my product or solution? So, I mean, let's talk to Mpati here. On a daily basis, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, what do you do on a daily basis to make sure that your brand is out there?
Okay, so maybe I'll take you just half a step back and say, as a small business, how do you what? You wake up, you want to do this thing, but where do you even begin? I think a great place to start, even that is not easy, is to find a mentor. Find somebody who's done it. Find somebody who's doing it. It might not even necessarily be in the same industry. But businesses, whether you're selling computers or you're selling couches, the principles remain the same. So find a mentor. Find somebody who you look up to, who's doing this thing and who's, most importantly, winning at it. If I don't have money, if I'm not doing well in my business, I probably don't know how. I probably don't know how.
Absolutely.
Now, find somebody who's doing it and who has done it.
Okay.
Now, you're going to make the mistakes, in spite of the fact that you've got a mentor. The mentor's job in this will be to mentor you. And without mentorship,
how important is mentorship actually?
Mentorship, I think, is absolutely, absolutely critical, because you then have the ear of somebody who has made the mistakes. You know, some mistakes are rookie mistakes. Other mistakes are slightly more advanced. So you will make mistakes pretty much, I think, for as long as you're in business. However, making mistakes will almost always fall into different categories. You can make a mistake that will cost you 100 rands. You can make a mistake that will cost you 100,000 rands. You can make a mistake that will cost... You know, I always use the example, if I come to your house and you offer me a glass of water and I make a mistake and I drop that, it's okay. You know, I'm sorry, I dropped your glass, great, we'll sweep it up. If I get to your house and I'm playing with your baby girl or your baby boy and I drop that, totally different conversation. You know? So mistakes, some mistakes you can never recover from. You know, some mistakes, and that is why you need to have the ear of a mentor, because the mentor will be able to tell you, that is a deep, deep, dark hole. You're never going to, you're okay getting through the potholes.
Okay.
You're okay dropping the glasses. It's okay.
Yeah.
There, stay clear. You know, my mentor told me, and look, he doesn't talk a lot.
Yeah.
He said to me, if you're going to do it properly. So one of the things that I'm busy doing right now, actually, to advertise my business, I'm busy printing boards that I'm going to put up in lampposts pretty much all over Johannesburg. I'm printing 1,500 of these that I'm going to sample and put pretty much everywhere. But there's a process to this. You've got to go to JMPD and get permission. You've got to, trust me, it's not easy. I was there this morning. They gave me a long list of things to do, short of telling me to go and get my dead grandmother's key. And you've just got to go. You've just got to go and make sure that you do as much. Otherwise, all that happens, you spend all this money doing all of this. They're just going to tear the stuff down and fine you. Now, the message that you wanted to get is still not there.
Yeah.
You've now got this hefty fine for doing something that hasn't worked. And so
didn't do it properly.
Just by cutting corners, you're actually doing yourself a huge disservice. So I would say, as small as as SMMEs, we have the obligation to go and find a mentor. And it's not easy because people are busy. If somebody's successful, if somebody has made money and is making money, they're busy making it. So for them to give you the time of day and to listen to all your challenges and all your this and all of that really takes a lot from them.
Okay.
So you've got to appreciate that even that is going to be a struggle. You're not going to go find the first guy who you look up to and he's going to say, oh yeah, great, I'll make all the time that you want.
Yeah.
You're probably going to get a whole lot of people who really might be genuinely interested in assisting you, but genuinely, honestly, just don't have the time. You then just got to keep searching and searching until you find that person who's then prepared to walk this road with you until you become okay. And you're going to make many mistakes. Sometimes your mentor might even be irritated with you, but well, now are we 20? Don't you ever learn? But it is part of the curve. It is part of the learning process. Once you've got your mentor, I'm sure you can notice I'm wearing my uniform.
Yeah.
And I always wear my uniform Monday to Friday. My issue is, if you can afford, and these things are really not expensive, to have a little t-shirt, a little golf shirt, a little cap that says, if you're not going to wear your brand, if you're not going to take your brand seriously, why should I?
Absolutely.
It is that if you're not going to talk well about your brand, why should anybody else? So the reality is, while you're delivering your service, you're probably going to make a couple of mistakes. You're probably going to disappoint a couple of people, and it's okay. Learn from it. Never ever fail to go back to those people and apologize sincerely and make up for what you have messed up. But with a forward look to say, tomorrow, I'm not going to commit the same error that I committed today, because you will almost always be committing errors, and that is the nature of business.
All right. Let's talk to that. Let's talk to global mentors, from the University of Google, If a person wants to go online and see who out there is a specialist in marketing, in communications, who would you recommend?
Okay. If you're going to go Google marketing experts, I don't know globally who you might be looking at. What I do know is who I personally look up to and who's personally giving me mentorship. Now, that particular person who's giving me mentorship, he's done some phenomenal stuff in my little world. He's been able to move literally from nothing to having companies in Swaziland. He's got businesses in Swaziland. He's got business. And when you look at this guy's life, I'm sure he's home maybe 6 months, 7 months at the most in a year. The rest of the year he's traveling. And he's not out there having fun. You might think, hey, great, he's in Dubai again, he's in the Seychelles. He's out there and he's working to make sure that... Now, if you go to his facilities, you find that every little thing that he has got is state of the art. It is done the way it should. So if you go to a school in the UK, you find it is exactly the way it should be for us here in South Africa, because he is a South African guy. And this is where you then sit and say, but how do I get here? Because a lot of the time we find ourselves as SMEs, you want to do it properly, but properly costs a lot of money. How then do you improvise before you get to the point of doing it properly? Do you then do without this one thing that you need so much because you can't afford it, and make up for it in other ways? Again, if you can't afford to pay for it, it's a constant struggle, perpetual struggle of perfection until such time that you're able to... Sacrifice is one thing that we don't do very well as SMEs. If I have 1,000 rands as mine, it's probably going somewhere else, and then tomorrow I discover my client wants whatever the client wants. That 1,000 rands that I used yesterday could have very well gone into this, and I didn't use it for that, and now I'm sitting there struggling with that.
Fantastic. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I want to speak a little bit about that sacrifice. How much do you sacrifice? When are you ready to sacrifice, and what are the signs?